Good morning, lovelies. The same but different. Let's talk about it. Jesus coffee. So, I read through Great New Morning Mercies this morning by Paul David Tripp, and then in a couple of minutes after I did Bible study, I sat and listened to a TikTok. And wow, did it hit home. And what he was talking about in the TikTok was how the enemy and God are similar but different. And what I mean by similar is they both try and lead you to the way they want you to go, but they do it very differently. So the enemy, we know in John 10:10, he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Good morning, Janice. He ultimately wants to lead us to death in separation from God. But the way he does that is he does that along the way. He gives us little bursts of life. And what do I mean by little bursts of life? Gives us sin. And that sin, all of those moments of sin feel like life because they feel good, right? Because sin feels good. What does that look like? Well, that looks like different things to different people. Maybe it's pornography. Maybe it's adultery. Maybe it's sleeping around. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe it's drugs. Maybe it's lying. Maybe it's different things for different people. But along the way, it feels good. But it's leading you to death. It's leading you to a life that's separated from God. So hold on to that thought. Because Christianity is a counterculture. It's not a subculture of the world. It's a counterculture. Meaning we do everything that's completely 180 degrees away from the way the world does things. So we know that Satan leads you to death through little bursts of life called sin. Jesus leads you to life with little bursts of what feels like death. And what I mean by that is trials and tribulations. They don't feel good at all. They don't feel good. When you go through a trial and a tribulation, maybe that's God removing somebody from your life that shouldn't be there, that you really cared about. Maybe that's a death of a family member. Maybe that's you losing something that you really enjoyed. Losing the ability to do something you really enjoyed, but wasn't really good. Good morning, Ed. What's going on, my brother? So he leads us to life with little bursts of what feels like death. And those are trials and tribulations. But we know that what he's doing is he's cracking and breaking that sinful exoskeleton and that exostructure we have. And he's pulling it apart so that he can get to what's underneath, which is Christ-likeness. And when we allow those, and how we respond to those little deaths leads to our growth. So when we respond to trials and tribulations, Christ-likeness, and we don't get mad at God and go, why did you do that? But we go, thy will be done. It's our response. And you know, this ties right back into this morning I talked about prayer in my soap of Revelation 8:1. Because what did the tribulation saints do? They prayed for God to cast down and to protect them from those of the world that were killing them and hurting them. What did Jesus do? He took their prayers, he took fire from the altar, and he cast it down on the earth. And through that came down as fire, lightning, earthquake, and ultimately raining hail and fire from the sky as he broke the seventh seal. So he was taking the prayers of the tribulation saints and casting them down in the form of wrath on those that were hurting and killing the tribulation saints. If you don't think prayer is a powerful weapon, it's a very powerful weapon. But so see that similarity, and they're both trying to lead you toward them, but they're leading it very differently. So the enemy and Jesus both want to lead you toward them, but they want to lead you toward them completely different ways. The enemy through little bursts of life called sin, which feels great. And then Jesus toward life with little bursts of death, which don't feel so good. But we know produces growth. So I want to read through a chunk of Romans 3. Because when we talk about people as being good. Well, he was really good. He's going to go to heaven. It's really good. I want you to listen to this chunk of passage here in Romans 3, where he talks about what Paul David Tripp is talking about is how we view others' sins and we tend not to look at our own sins. We need to look in the mirror. Stop looking at others and stop judging others, but we need to look in the mirror and we need to evaluate our own sin. We need to evaluate our own lives. So this is what Paul says in Romans 3, and this is verse 9 through 18. None is righteous, no, not one. No one understands. No one seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. No one does good, not even one. Their throat is an open grave. They use their tongues to deceive. Yeah, that was me. The venom of asps is under their lips. Their mouth is full of curses and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. In their paths are ruin and misery. And the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Ow. But, ow. That scripture drops a mirror. If that scripture right there doesn't drop a mirror in front of your face to evaluate your own sin, because when we start to look at others' sin, we start to cast self-righteousness on ourselves. Well, I'm not as bad as that. They're worse than I am. I'm more righteous. You're circling the drain. And you're headed for the wrong place. You're headed for the wrong things. Do not circle the drain. Do not look at others and think you're more self-righteous. You're better than them. You're more righteous than them. That's self-righteousness. Jesus never accounted for self-righteousness. Matter of fact, what did he call the Pharisees? Brood of vipers. For what? Because they paid attention to the law. They were self-righteous. We're all sinners. We all, capital A, capital L, capital L, all need his mercy and his grace every minute of every day. And if you don't think you do, there's an 18-inch break. You've got the head knowledge of God, but you're missing the heart knowledge of God because you're forgetting who he is and what he's done. Don't let that 18-inch be the most lethal 18 inches in the world. If you've got the head knowledge, but you don't have the heart knowledge, you're missing. They call that the lethal 18-inch. Oddly enough, the Bible's about 18 inches long. head knowledge to heart knowledge. Right there. That's how you turn head knowledge into heart knowledge right there. That's how you fix that 18-inch break. Right there. So, I love you guys. Kind of heavy message this morning. But, you know, we have to love each other with the truth, right? So you guys have a fantastic day. Don't let Satan lead you down the path of death with little victories and little bits of life. They only feel good for a season, but they're going to feel really heinous for eternity. Don't let that happen. Follow the right footsteps. Follow his footsteps. The footsteps that led to the cross at Calvary. The footsteps that were bloody. The footsteps that wore the spike for you. So, I love you guys. I know he does. We'll be back tomorrow with whatever Dad wants to talk about.